In a minute, we're going to be joined by Dustin Poirier. Interesting week for him. I was going through that at the beginning of the show, but I sort of lost my train of thought. Of course, he was supposed to fight Joseph Duffy Saturday in Ireland. News breaks Wednesday afternoon that the fight is off. Joseph Duffy suffered a concussion Saturday night at TriStar. Kudos to the UFC. They were the regulating body. They were the commission. He had some tests, went to see some doctors. They determined that, yes, he did suffer what they called a mild concussion, and they pulled him from the fight. And that's got to be a tough thing to do. It's one thing for an athletic commission to do that. It's one thing for NAC or California or New Jersey to do that. It's another thing when the UFC is calling the shots, and there's no athletic commission in Ireland, so they had to do it themselves. And of course, they were going to get a lot of heat for it. And yes, the tickets were sold already at that point, so there are fans who are they're gonna ask for refunds. But that's a tough thing, and that should tell you something about some of the people like Mark Ratner who head up the regulation side of things when they are the regulating body. So unfortunately for all those fans that were hoping to see Duffy versus Poirier Saturday in Ireland, they did not get that opportunity. But hopefully we will get that fight in the near future, because what a fight it is on paper. Now we're talking to Dustin Poirier. He is joining us via the magic of Skype. Dustin, how are you, my friend?
Good, man. What's going on?
Not much, and thank you for being flexible with the timing. I appreciate that greatly. You're in the car right now, so I'm assuming you're back home. You come home from Ireland. You left to go to Ireland expecting to have a fight, to have a great performance in the main event. You come home looking the same, no fight. How empty of a feeling is that for you?
It's upsetting for sure. I flew all the way out there to fight Joseph Duffy. But, I'm staying positive, man. I just left the gym. This is what I'm saying. A lot of people are saying you did 10 or 12 weeks of training and you let it, go away or what, this and that, whatever. But, that training wasn't done in vain, man. I got better and my game evolved and, on to what's next.
Your reaction when they called you to tell you the fight was off, did you think that you were being pranked? Did you think that this was a bad joke? How did you react to it?
It was Wednesday night, pretty late, like 10 o'clock or so. I was starting my weight cut, and I got a call to my hotel room, and it was one of the guys from UFC Europe, and he said, "Hey, Joe Silva's on my cell phone. He wants to talk to you." So immediately I was like, this is kind of weird. This doesn't usually happen. I was thinking maybe Duffy was having problems with his weight or something like that. I had no clue. But then when I talked to Joe Silva on the phone, first thing he said was, "Hey, man, the fight is off,"
And of course, the whole thing happened where they offered you some people and you said no. Was it right away that you said no, or did you talk to your team? How did you go about that?
Yeah, they only offered me one person, and it was Norman Park. And Joe needed an answer right there on the spot, but he gave me a couple minutes to think about it, and he wanted me to call him right back. My team's there. I called my head coach back in Florida. And they said, "Hey, reschedule the fight that we trained for."
Yeah.
It was a pretty easy decision for them, but me as a fighter, it was kind of tough for me, I even didn't even get the chance to talk to Joe and really turn it down myself or anything. Mike Brown actually did it over the phone, and while he was doing it, we were still kind of I myself was still kind of on the fence. But I got to trust my team, and the fight that I was there to fight didn't happen. So.
I know you were in attendance on Saturday. After seeing Norman's performance, were you thinking like, man, I should have just taken this fight, or are you 100% at ease with the decision?
No, I'm at ease with the decision. Before seeing him fight, I knew he was a boring fighter that I could have beat. That wasn't the thing. It was just the whole principle of the guy I was going to fight and the hype he had behind him and being in his hometown. And I trained 12 weeks for that guy.
Yeah.
Norman's not a tough fight. Matter of fact, right now, before you call me, he's on Twitter saying all kinds of stuff. And, dude, he should be happy he fought that guy he fought.
Why? Why do you feel that way?
Well, he's been getting his walking papers this week.
Okay. You would have smoked.
I saved his career. You should thank me.
It's always a funny thing when a guy's in, a location, agreed to fight in a cage, and now people are questioning you, like, "Oh, are you scared to fight?" How does that make you want to like just pull the very little hair that you have on your head? It's such a funny thing.
Yeah, this is the thing. Every time I've ever gotten in the cage, I've left it all in there, man. I'm willing to fight to the death every time I step in there. So for people to question my warrior spirit, or I'm not a real fighter, or this and that, it's just ridiculous, But hey, I'm growing up in my career. I'm surrounded by the right people. Everybody's saying, that was a smart decision. If I would think like fans think, I'd be broke and brain dead and fighting everybody every weekend. Hey, I'm a prize fighter, and the prize wasn't right. So we came back home, and we'll see what happens next. It's that simple. I was there to hold up my end of the bargain.
Right.
Norman Park was there trying to save his career.
The fan reaction isn't all that surprising, but the part that bothers me, and I want to get your reaction to it, is when I see fellow UFC fighters call you out saying, "I would have taken this fight." I saw several do that. And that just reminds me that, at the end of the day, these fighters, no one looks at you guys are supposed to be this brotherhood. You're supposed to be this fraternity. I mean, if to see an unranked fighter who, has never fought on a main card call you out, who's fighting in a main event, who's been around the block, who's fought in massive fights, and say, "I would have taken that fight." Of course you would have taken that fight. You're 1-1 in the UFC or something. Does that not piss you off? Because it really pissed me off seeing that.
Yeah, it does piss me off, but they see an opportunity to get their name on a headline, or something. They're just trying to jump on an opportunity, and I understand that. But it's kind of ridiculous from my end.
I saw some pictures of you and Joe together in the lobby and whatnot. What did you say to each other when you saw him after this happened?
He was a gentleman the whole time, Ariel. He told me he apologized. Even Rory McDonald came up to me in the hallway once and said he's sorry about all this happened. Hopefully we can get it rescheduled, this and that. But, that's the fight that I wanted and the fight that I prepared for. But after the fights, I ran into Joe's manager on the elevator, and he was telling me, it seems like Joe might not be able to start training again for 30 or 45 days because of head trauma. And that being said, he's looking at like maybe February return. And this is coming from his manager. So we haven't followed up and found out the whole thing. This is just the last thing I've heard. And I don't want to wait till February. I need a fight.
Yeah. So if that's the case, when would you like to return, and have you thought about anyone else yet?
Whoever they want me to fight. I haven't really thought about anyone else. But, I kind of would like a big fight.
Yeah.
For sure. But we'll just see how it plays out, man. Hopefully Duffy gets cleared and we can do this soon. Maybe January 2nd. But we'll see what happens, man. We'll see what happens.
Considering your history,
Go ahead. Norman Park needs to stay off of Twitter before he gets himself in a fight he can't win. So,
is this something that you would consider at this point, considering all that's been said?
What's that?
Like, let's say they come to you and say, "All right, we want you to fight Norman Park full training camp." Do you even consider that now?
I'd have to talk to my coaches, but the fighter in me, because he's talking and saying all this stuff now, makes me want to whip his ass. Yeah.
Considering your relationship with Conor in the past, your history there, how did the Irish fans treat you over there?
Man, I had a great reception there. Everybody was really cool. Just walking around the city, people were running up to me, far away from the venue, on the trains and stuff out there. People were coming up to me. It was good, man. The fans really showed me a lot of love, I got to say.
That's good. And what about being there in attendance on Saturday? How difficult was that for you?
That was one of the craziest crowds that I've ever been in front of. I've read stuff about them saying what happened last time they were in Dublin and how crazy the crowd was. But whenever Ash Daly came out to fight and the Cranberries were playing, I had chills on my arms the way the crowd was standing up, singing every word. Man, that was something special. I've never been in a building that felt like that.
Did it kind of make you feel?
And
go ahead.
And that being said, I was there when GSP fought Jake Shields, and there was that I don't forget how many people were there, 40 or 50,000 people in that. It was crazier than that for me.
Wow. Yeah, that was 55,000 Canadians. So you're saying 10,000 Irishmen louder than 55,000 Canadians?
Yeah, everybody was in sync and on point, and you could just feel the energy. It was a different atmosphere I've never been in front of.
Did it make you feel worse? Like you're like, man, I wish I could be fighting in front of these people right now?
While I was watching fights a couple of times, I was like, man, I could be feeling this energy and fighting in front of these people, but I stand by my decision.
Yeah. And how do you feel about him sparring 7 days before the fight? Does that sound normal to you, or do you think that's too soon?
My last sparring session was the Tuesday before.
Okay.
Not the fight week, the previous.
Yeah,
week.
yeah.
Yeah, and everybody does it differently. I flowed that the same day he got hurt, Saturday. I was in the gym flowing with guys, but maybe it was an accident. I doubt he was in there full sparring, throwing hard punches and kicks. They were probably just moving around, and one wrong move a certain way, and you can get cracked. So maybe it was his training partner's fault, or I'm not sure who did it or whatever. But I heard it was a kick. A shin or a knee to the head when you're moving down, even if it's not hard, can be serious.
Were you surprised that he was removed from the fight because the UFC, were the athletic commission on this card?
What I heard is when they first told me is that originally Saturday when it happened, he did some tests and got approved there in Canada, and the doctor said he was clear. But when he showed up to Ireland, they wanted further testing, and he didn't pass those tests. So I don't know what's going on really with the whole thing. I just felt like I would have been. If it's not the UFC's fault, but I wish they would have called me the week before the fight and said, "Hey, we still want you to come out here. We're planning on you fighting Joseph Duffy, but be prepared to take an alternate fight." That way, it wouldn't have been such a shocker to me the day before the fight.
Yeah.
I would have been like knowing that in the back of my head.
I know Dana was there. Did you have a chance to talk to him?
I talked to him on the phone the day before he got there, and he told me, he said, "Hey, kid, we're going to try to reschedule this fight. If you really think you want to fight, you really think you have to fight, we have a fight for you. If not, don't feel like the show's riding on your shoulders." That was his exact words. So, and then I saw him Fight Night, and he said, "Hey, man, sit back, relax, and enjoy these fights." That was pretty much it.
Did you feel like that was something that, it was a nice thing for him to say? In other words, if he would have said to you, "I really need you to stay on this card," would you have just done it even though it didn't make sense?
If Dana and Joe were telling me, "Hey, we really need you here on this card, do us a solid and stay on the card," I probably would have done it. But that wasn't the vibe I was getting. It was, "We'll reschedule this thing. Shit happens." That's the vibe I was kind of getting.
I noticed you said on Twitter that they told you if you took the Park fight, you would have been the co-main event. Why is that? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, I have no clue, but that's what I was told.
Huh?
It would have been 3 rounds, and I would have been co-main.
Did that factor in your decision at all?
I don't know. I'm not sure. We were back and forth with the decision. We were on the fence. Me, Mike Brown, and my boxing coach. Then we called my main coach, Canvas Barzini, back in Florida, who was running Robbie Lawler's camp right now, and he said, "Pack your bags and come home." And I said, "Okay." I take his word for gold, man.
Yeah. Did you consider coming home and not sticking around?
No. I knew I was going to stay. My wife was in the air at the time on the way to Ireland, and it was just, I was already out there. I might as well stay there.
Right. Wow. So your wife landed and found out the news?
She was actually at the airport before.
Oh, gosh.
And I Skyped her. And she was pretty supportive. She said, "Hey, do whatever you and your coaches think's right." And at first she said, "I don't like it." I said, "They offered me a replacement." She's like, "I don't like it." Then she said, "Do what you think's right." And I saw her the next morning.
And would you say that this was the toughest decision of your career?
I feel like I did the right thing.
Yeah.
It's hard to say. Hard to say.
And by the way, in case I wasn't clear, you didn't hear me prior, I think you did 100%. You made the right choice. 100%. I mean, it's not even a question. And I give you a lot of credit. But tough because you know that all these people are going to come out and question you and question your warrior spirit and all this nonsense. I'm happy that people like you are making these decisions now because it shows that this is a real sport and not rock'em sock'em robots. So I think you want to, but I just wanted to know if you were torn because you're there, you invested all this time, if it was tough in that sense.
Right. Yeah, it was. I was not too far off from weight. I did a whole camp. I was there going through all the motions. I did a few workouts already the days leading up. I was in the zone and I was in the groove ready to fight. going through the fight process, a fight week, and it was kind of tough. But you know, sitting back, like when stuff like this happens to guys, and I see it, I'm just thinking like, that's crazy, man, that's crazy. But I didn't think it was going to happen to me, not that close to a fight. Like when Woodley's fight got pulled off, and I know it happened to Nick Lentz a few times, and I see it and read the headlines, I'm thinking this is ridiculous. I can't think what these guys are going through, and it finally happened to me, you know.
Has this ever happened to you even before the UFC?
No,
Wow.
never, man.
Well, I thought you handled it very well, so kudos to you, and you made the right decision. You know, if for whatever it's worth, I think you 100% made the right decision. Sorry it worked out this way. I appreciate you coming on, and I hope you get to fight very soon. Always great to see you, and I want to see you continue that winning streak at 155. It's been great as of late.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I feel great, and you know, I have no injuries, so I actually just left the gym. I'm right here in the grocery store parking lot.
Oh.
I'm already back in the gym, so we'll get something lined up, you know. And I really, Ariel, I want to thank you. Thanks for your support, man. It means a lot. I feel like I made the right decision, and anybody who questions my warrior spirit, let's line up a fight, and I'll show you it in person. Go to the fight and see what happens live, you know.
Well said. Thank you, Dustin. All the best to you. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, man.
All right, there he is, Dustin Poirier. I think a decision like that is what actually makes the sport better. It shows the evolution of the sport. You know, we may be used to back in the day, guys, you know, taking fights like that. And look, if someone wants to take a fight, their prerogative. Go ahead, take the fight. You have your reasons. You have bills to pay. I'm not going to begrudge anyone for doing that, but I certainly don't think anyone should be criticized for not taking a fight on 3 days' notice against an opponent they did not prepare for, flew all the way there to fight someone, and then the rug gets pulled under you. That's the kind of decision a professional athlete should and needs to make, and we're seeing this more and more. We're seeing this more and more out of these pro athletes. That's actually a good sign. That's actually reassuring. So I'm not saying that Dustin, you know, I wouldn't tell someone like Dustin Poirier if I was in his corner, like, you know, you're making the wrong decision by taking this fight if it's offered to you. But I will say that I'm happy a guy like him who has won. I mean, it's understandable that a lower-ranked guy would want that fight. Why wouldn't he? This is the kind of opportunity. That's why Charlie Brenneman took the Rick Story fight. But in hindsight, I don't think Rick Story should have taken that fight. I don't think John Jones needed to take the Chael Sonnen fight. And on it goes. So I actually think that this is a reassuring sign, a good sign. It's a sign of the times. It's a sign that the sport is moving in the right direction. Anyone questioning Dustin Poirier is just being an ass.